Alright, in this lesson here, what we're going to be doing is taking a look at some of the basic tools that will be used throughout this VTM for modeling our character.
Absolutely.
Okay, now this lesson's designed for beginners out there that are new to working with Maya.
Yeah, just so you don't get intimidated when we start, knocking out a really cool character here in a few minutes.
Exactly, and the whole idea, of course, is when we get into the modeling phase, we don't want to have to stop every time we switch between tools, so you can always refer back to this lesson easily.
Or just take notes now and you won't have to.
There you go. So let's go ahead and start out with something simple, Zach. Obviously, the whole idea behind this is polygon modeling, so let's go ahead and show them where we can get some polygon primitives from.
Well, there's actually a couple of places. One, of course, is the Polygon Shelf tab. Now, for those of you who don't have your shelf tabs open inside of Maya, you can go into the little black triangle over here and just activate shelf tabs. Also, you can go into the Create menu, and under Polygon Primitives, there's your list with all the various primitives you can create. I'll start off with a cube just because it's one of the most simple polygons you can make, and voila, we get this nice little polygon cube in the middle of our scene. I shade him up so you can see him, and as you can see, he's pretty much just a cube. Now that we've seen where the Create menu is, though, I'm just going to go ahead and use the shelf because it's right here in front of us.
Okay.
So we have the polygon sphere. We click on that, and we get a sphere. We can come under its inputs, and we can change things like its radius, its subdivisions around its axis, and its subdivisions by height. Go ahead and delete that. Cylinder. Pretty much looks like a cylinder.
Again, it comes with inputs that you can adjust.
Comes with inputs you can adjust, and you'll get the hang of these, after seeing the first couple of them. The cylinder has its own height, so you can change its height. Now, this is completely independent of scale, so if you're scaling your creation up, that's going to be an entirely different measurement unto itself. I'm going to go ahead and delete this out. We also have a cone. And once again, we have various inputs we can change, just like the other primitives as well. We have the polygon plane. And finally, the polygon torus.
Very good. Simple enough. So let's go ahead and take a look at the cube again, because that's where we're going to be starting out with our character.
Exactly. That's a lot of where our work's going to come from.
And now at this point, we're actually running in an object mode. What we want to do is go ahead and spend just a moment and talk about the components that make up this object. And for a polygon, the three major components that we're going to be dealing with is going to be the vertex, the edge, and the face. So Zach, go ahead and show them how to switch over into a component mode.
Okay, first thing, though, is I'm going to go ahead and get the grid out of our way, just to kind of keep our scene from getting too cluttered up while we're doing this one. So we can go into a component mode in several different ways. One of the ways you can right-click and bring up a marking menu, and then you can select the various components you want to see. So here we have vertices, edges, faces, and vertex faces, which we're not really going to go into.
Something I would like to point out here is, of course, that the mouse is sensitive as to what object it's over. So it's not just a matter of right-clicking anywhere in the viewport. You need to make sure you're over your polygon object.
Exactly. If we right-click out here, all we get is
it's a different thing altogether.
Entirely different marking menu. We can also press F8 and jump back and forth between component and object mode.
And you can see up at the top on your status line that you actually have these two icons changing right there. Now he's in a component mode, and if he clicks over to the left, he'll be back in an object mode. Right.
Now, you also have other hotkeys to go into specific component modes, such as when we right-click, we can go into vertices, edges, or faces. You can do this with hotkeys as well. F9 will take you into vertices, F10 will allow you to select edges, and F11 will allow you to select faces.
Very good. Okay, so obviously the whole idea of modeling is we'll start out with some sort of geometry, and then we will start manipulating the components of that geometry, be it edges, faces, or vertices. So just for anybody out there that may be completely new to this, go ahead and show them how they'd move some verts around.
All right, cool. So I'm going to press F9, and that, of course, will allow me to select vertices. So I can use my move tool, just like moving any other object inside of Maya, and I can move these guys around pretty much however I want to. So already we no longer have an exact cube. We're starting to get a much more interesting shape. Also, you can select more than one vertex, and you can use your scale tool or even your rotate tool.
Okay, very good. And of course, if you're working with edges, you're going to be manipulating two vertices at once.
Exactly, and that's a really good way to think about it, is instead of actually coming in, let me go ahead and switch to edge mode, don't try, it's a little less confusing for a lot of people. If you don't think about it as trying to move an edge about, just go ahead and think about it like you're trying to manipulate both of the vertices connected to that edge. So now if we were to scale this, it's just like bringing those two vertices together.
Right.
And really, you can do pretty much everything you can do to a pair of vertices here. You can move them around, you can rotate them and scale them, as I've just shown. And finally, we have the face.
And now with the face, basically, you can think that you're just simply moving 4 connecting vertices at one time.
In this particular case, yeah, it's just like moving 4. Now, if you had like a 5-sided face
or a triangle with 3, absolutely.
It's just however many vertices are around the edge of your face. So once again, if I scale, I bring all these guys together, or if I want, I can rotate them. Starting to get something kind of funky now.
Yeah, that's scary looking.
Yeah, it's kind of scary looking. Kind of ugly, but that's okay.
We can live with it.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's going from object mode into component mode and manipulating some of the components that make up this geometry. So Zach, go ahead and destroy that poor-looking model and go ahead and create another polycube for us. And now what we want to do is go ahead and start talking about some of the tools that we're going to be using, actually all of the tools that we're going to be using throughout this VTM.
All right.
And let's go ahead and start by talking about the Extrude Faces tool.
Cool.
Very, very cool tool for poly modeling.
It's a priceless tool for poly modeling.
It's a must-have.
It's a must-have, thank you. So actually, for extruding faces, as you might have guessed, we're going to need to be able to select faces. We can, of course, just go ahead and grab the entire model into itself and hit extrude, and Maya will automatically convert over to faces, but it's going to extrude every face on it.
Everybody saw which icon he clicked on the shelf just then.
We'll get to that here in just a second. I'm just trying to make the point that before you start extruding faces, it's a good idea to go into face component mode. So let me go ahead and select a single face here, and we'll extrude this guy out. Now, we can do this one of 2 ways. Everybody saw the icon I clicked up here on the shelf, and there's a little tooltip that pops up and tells you this is extrude face and tells you what it does. Under Edit Polygons, you can find the Extrude Face tool, or its options if you need to change anything, but we'll just go ahead and keep it simple for now. And let me go ahead and activate this. And we get a really cool manipulator here that is actually kind of like your Move tool, your Scale tool, and your Rotate tool all combined into one. It bases itself off the face's normal, so Z is always facing away from the particular face you have selected. So now if I move this guy out in Z, you can see what happens.
We've just pulled this additional detail out of our box.
Exactly. We've just created 4 new faces around the border of our original face. So let me just kind of undo that, and I'll show you one more time. We'll just pull these guys out, and you see these faces get selected. We can also scale these faces in, or do a uniform scale. And if we click the circle on the very outside, we can rotate them. Now, some of you might have noticed the little blue circle here just kind of hanging out here in the middle of nowhere. This is going to be our world coordinate system for extrusion. You might have noticed what we have here, the Z-axis is facing up, so we're obviously in a local view as far as this extrusion goes. So if we wanted to, just for example, extrude in a world axis, we could click on this, and all of a sudden we get world coordinates. Now Y is up, Z is forward, and X is off to the side. This is handy if you're making several extrusions in different directions. Let me go ahead and give a quick example. Select many faces. We'll pull all these guys out. And let's say I wanted to move all of these faces up at the same time. If I drag them up...
Everybody's idea of up is a completely different thing.
Exactly, because we're in local mode.
Exactly.
So what I can do is go into world mode and now drag them up in Y, and they all come with me.
Very good.
So that's going to pretty much take care of everything we need to know about extrusions.
Yes, we'll be doing extrusions throughout this VTM. Not a whole lot of them.
No, not a whole lot. Actually, you'll find when you're doing game models that sometimes extrusion can add a little more detail than you really need. And sometimes it's going to be far easier to actually split polygons and create your own custom detail.
Which that just happens to bring us to the very next tool that we'll be taking a look at, which is the split polygon tool.
How convenient.
Now, this is one that we will be using a lot.
Extensively. We're going to be using this tool over and over, so it'd probably be a good idea between now and when you actually start the next lesson to maybe sit down and practice with this if you haven't used it before. It's a very simple tool to use, and you can access it under Edit Polygons, Split Polygon Tool, or there's also an icon under your Polygons shelf tab for Split Polygon Tool, and here's basically how it works. You click a point on an edge, click to another edge, and we'll just go ahead and press Enter to complete the tool.
You'll see that it's now inserted basically two new vertices and an edge, connecting those two new vertices.
If I go to vertex subobject or vertex component mode, sorry about that, you'll notice that we have two new vertices that were just created.
Yep.
Now you can also use the tool. Let's see if I can get this to where the beginners understand. Your tool must begin and end on an edge.
Right.
But in between that, the doors are kind of open. You can go ahead and create a split and add several vertices in the middle of a face. This is not the cleanest way to work, but it can be done. And actually at one part in this tutorial we'll do this, but we're going to clean this up later as we go. So in this case you'll notice we have these vertices which are just kind of floating in the middle of our face. You could clean these up by restarting your tool and just kind of anchoring these vertices down into a corresponding vertex, like so. This helps Maya triangulate. Sometimes when you have floating vertices in the middle of a face, your geometry can act unpredictably, we'll say.
And right now we're going to be putting an emphasis on triangulation throughout this entire VTM because it is what is needed when we get over to Unreal Tournament 2003.
All right, so that pretty much covers the
split polygon tool, but there is something important to go ahead and point out, and that is for those that have never used it before. Zach, if you'd like to go ahead and talk a little bit about the magnet snapping ability.
Exactly, I was actually headed there.
Okay.
So if we go into the option box for the split polygon tool, we get some pretty cool options, not a whole lot to worry about, but we get subdivisions, which is really just going to tell us how many vertices will appear in a new edge we create. Let me go ahead and give an example. I'll set this up to some atrociously high number, like 10 or 11, doesn't really matter. And let me go ahead and we'll just make a single split across this face, and you'll notice now that it creates a vertex. Actually, it creates 10 vertices all the way across.
Right.
So that's what subdivision is going to do. Let me go ahead and undo that. I'm going to press Y, and what Y does as a hotkey is it restarts your tool. So it's just like going back up and selecting the tool all over.
Reactivates the last used tool.
Exactly. So we have edge snapping. Let me go ahead and set my subdivision back
Yeah,
on
probably
one.
good.
Yeah. Edge snapping. If you switch this on, you're going to be able to see the different. This is on by default, so you're probably never going to notice it. If you switch it off, you really will see how this works. We start off our tool on an edge. If we get within a certain range of an edge, Maya will typically snap that point directly to that edge.
That's right.
So if you switch this off and you snap if you click really close, you'll get right onto the edge. But if you're not close enough, then you're going to be kind of floating out here in the middle of your face. Typically, I always leave this on. It just makes it easier to land directly on your edge when you're working. So we also have snapping magnets. These are going to be, let's see, what's the best way to describe this, Buzz? Let's say these are going to divide each edge that you're splitting through into the number of divisions you specify. So right now we have one snapping magnet with a 10% tolerance.
It means it's going to basically just split one edge that you're dealing with in half. Or as you are moving along that edge, it's going to snap you to the 50% spot when you hit within that 10%
Exactly. Think about it this way. We're snapping we're snapping from an edge to an edge, and if we have one snapping magnet, then we're actually, there it is right there.
Yeah, you can feel the pop.
Dead center of the actual edge, we've got a snapping magnet that is basically splitting this edge in half. This is very handy if you're trying to add your own custom detail and you know that your new split needs to go directly in the middle of an edge. You can use this to your advantage to really help get accurate splits.
Which often that's something that you're going to want.
Exactly. Also, just something else that if you've never used this tool, you'll find very handy. If you use the middle mouse button, you can relocate the last point that you laid. So that can really help you out. So we can take the number of snapping magnets and we can increase them, say
up to 4.
4.
So now it's going to divide it up into quarters.
So we'll see the first one. There's 1, 2. There it is. 3. And 4. So you'll notice that it's not counting the vertices at either end.
Right.
And just something else for those of you who the math of this might have been lost upon, if you're trying to have it to where you always have a center point to your edge, always keep this as an odd number. 4 is going to divide this into an even number of segments. If you have it at an odd number, you'll always have one magnet at the dead center of your shape.
Just simply look at snapping magnets as being how many points along that edge you'll be able to snap to.
Exactly. Then we have snapping tolerance. This is going to be how close you have to get to a snapping magnet before your
snap occurs.
Yeah, before the snap actually occurs. So right now it's at 10%, so you'll notice actually as we're splitting, let me turn this down just for the example. You'll notice we get one, and then we kind of float for a minute, and then pop, we get to the next one. And we have to get actually pretty close to this before the snap takes place. So if we take our tolerance and we set it up much higher, maybe into the 60 or 75 range, now
click.
We have only a little bit of playroom, and then it snaps right to it.
Very strong. Very, very strong strength.
This is also handy if you know that you're only going to be making perfectly accurate cuts. Let's say you know that pretty much every time you split, you're going to be splitting down the middle of an edge. You can set your snapping tolerance all the way to 100%, and your point only appears on the snap point, on the snap magnet itself.
Right. Okay, so now that you've seen how the split polygon tool works, and this is something, again, as Zach said earlier, we're going to be using it a lot throughout this VTM.
But before I completely walk away from it, there are a couple of rules that you kind of need to know about it, because we're going to run into these while we model.
Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and talk about those now.
Let me go ahead and close the tool real quick, and we'll just use it. If I were to create a split here on this edge, and then maybe split here to the middle of my shape, and then let's say I wanted to come back to form kind of a triangle here, you'll notice Maya doesn't let me do that. Maya goes ahead and closes the shape off. Really, the rule is you cannot begin a split and end it on the same edge unless you have wrapped around to another face. And here, let me go ahead and kind of demonstrate that. You'll notice as we cut straight out and straight back and press enter, we get nothing. Now, something did appear in history, so a split occurred, but no actual detail was created. Try to avoid this whenever possible. If, on the other hand, we took a split that we'll just say... Let me go ahead. I'll just kind of rotate around our creation here. Maybe went all the way around this arm, if you will. And then back to this point, everything's fine. That's because we crossed over different faces. You can't go from an edge to a single face and then straight back to that edge, or the tool will not complete. So that's pretty much the only rule that you really need to keep in mind. Now, there's a way around this. Let's just say, for example, that we needed a split that went from this edge and just kind of formed a triangle in the middle of this face. I'm not sure why you'd ever need that, but if you did, here's how you can go about bypassing the rule, if you will. We can click all the way across the shape, and then we can make a second split back here, and now we have pretty much exactly what we needed.
Right.
And we can relocate the vertex we placed here in the middle to kind of reshape our split itself. So there's one way that you can use to get around that. We'll have other ways as we actually go through the modeling project to deal with this problem as we work.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move on now. Let's go ahead and start talking about the Cut Faces tool.
All right. Cut Faces tool is a very handy tool for adding in detail very quickly and very accurately. And basically, here's how it works. You can start off with a selection of faces that you know you're going to be cutting. And then when you get the Cut Faces tool out, you get your pointer that designates you're using a tool. If you click and drag, you'll get this really nice line. And once you release the mouse...
Big old slicing laser, if you will.
Exactly. And an edge appears. You'll notice it went all the way through the shape. And basically what this did was it made a split based on the normal of the camera. So as it was really at the same angle as the camera. This makes things a little unpredictable if you're using a perspective view.
That's right.
So, we're looking at the shape here at kind of a strange angle, and if we go to make a cut, from this angle it looks like a perfect, just flat cut, but if we rotate the camera, we'll notice that it's not.
That's right.
So typically when you're using the Cut Faces tool, it's a good idea to use it in an orthographic view like so. Also, you can hold down the Shift key, and that will activate angle snapping, so you can get perfect 45s and 90s. So really quickly, you can make a lot of detail for your shape.
Look at that. Nice and clean.
A little excessive, but nice and clean.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a little bit too much. Okay, very good. So with this, let's go ahead and talk about merging vertices real quick.
Okay. Well, actually, we got a pretty good setup for that, because we have all this extra detail.
Exactly.
And merging vertices is going to become very important whenever you start getting into game modeling, because if you haven't done it before, you'll probably find yourself adding in more detail than you really need.
That's true, and to be honest with you, I think you're going to find it important in just about any sort of poly modeling that you're going to do.
Exactly, to root through it, find places where you have redundant detail, and to cancel that out by making all of the points into one. And that's exactly what Merge Vertices does. So naturally, with a tool like Merge Vertices, we're going to need to be in vertex mode. So I'm going to select some vertices. We'll just hit Q so I get my selection tool out. And I'll just select these 4 vertices here, kind of zoom up a little bit so you can see them. And there's a couple of ways to get to the Merge Vertices tool. Of course, it's under Edit Polygons. You can get it from the menu. And I just ran it and nothing happened. And I'm about to go ahead and show you why. If you go under the options, you only have one option for this tool, and that's the distance.
That's right.
Now, the distance is going to be basically the range at which your merge is going to occur. Right. Any vertices that fall outside of this range are not going to merge at all. Right now, if our distance is at 0, nothing will merge. Even if these vertices were snapped to each other and right on top of each other, with the distance of 0, nothing is going to merge. So keep that in mind. So instead of going ahead and changing my distance there in the options, let me go ahead and go back under history and show you how this works.
Yeah, we really wouldn't want to because we already have a node that's been put into the graph here.
Absolutely. We can see under our inputs that a poly merge did take place. It just had a 0 distance. So we can go back under history, and I'll use my virtual slider. That's by selecting the various option and then using my middle mouse to drag up. And as we get within a specific range, you'll see how the snap takes place. Once we get within about 0.3, the 2 vertices that were closest to each other on each side snap to each other because they fell within 0.3 units distance of each other. If we keep sliding up, once we get to 0.4, they all snap together because they were all within a 0.4 radius of each other.
Yep.
So that's a really nice, quick way to close out extra detail that you didn't really need.
Okay, so good enough. Now let's go ahead and real quick, I just got a couple more things I want to talk about. Just one more that is going to play a very important role in this modeling process, and that is especially at the very end, and that's triangulate.
Absolutely.
And when we go to take our geometry over to Unreal Tournament 2003, basically what we need is geometry that's composed of all triangles. And, you know, instead of thinking triangles as you are modeling, you do have a triangulate capability inside of Maya. Zach, go ahead and show them.
Right. There are some artists out there who do model in triangles. I'm not one of them. I typically model off in quads and then triangulate later if necessary. Just kind of an off-the-side note, if you are modeling, let's say not for games, but like you're making a poly model that you're going to be smoothing, it's a good idea to work in quads because they're much cleaner on your smoothing engine. So let me come in here. I'll go back to Object Mode. I'll press F8 to do that. And then under the Polygons menu, I've got Triangulate, and it has no options. You just simply run it, and it basically takes all of your quads and breaks them up into triangles based on the location of its surrounding vertices.
Very good. And there's a couple more things.
Well, just one quick thing, though. You will notice this. It kind of goes without saying, but if you haven't done this before for game modeling, face count is a very important thing when you're modeling for games. And naturally, when you triangulate, your face count is going to go much higher. So right now, we have 73 faces on this entire model. Once we triangulate, it jumps to 162. Just something to be aware of.
True. We'll actually come back and talk more about that a little bit later in this VTM.
Okay.
Okay, just a couple more things. Before we move into the last few tools I want to talk about, let's go ahead and take just a moment and take a look at what's starting to happen with construction history for the geometry that we have right now. Basically, you can see where Zach is circling right now. We've got a lot of different nodes involved in the final output of what you see in your viewport right now. And this construction history can really start to kind of bog things down after a while.
It will definitely slow down your computer after a while.
Especially if you're in there making poly split, and you're just doing it all over the place, extrusion. I mean, you end up being able to scroll and scroll and scroll. You know, it's a good idea while you're working. You know, once you're really happy with a part of your model, just start deleting your construction history. And Zach, if you can, go ahead and
sure.
Delete a little history there.
And just something to be aware of, don't be scared to delete your history, because, I mean, if you really, all history does, it allows you to go back in and take actions that you've already done and change them. If you know you're not going to be changing these actions, go right ahead and delete your history. It's not like the end of the world or anything. So what I'm going to do is go under Edit, and we'll go to Delete by Type, and hit History.
Yep.
And there we go. And now all of our inputs are gone. As far as Maya is concerned, this is exactly how this shape was created.
All we have at the moment is a simple shape node and a transform node, and that shape node is containing the actual makeup of that geometry right there. So this is a lot less overhead on Maya at the moment.
It's a really ugly model, too, by the way.
You're doing a great job there, Zach. So just one more tool. Let's go ahead and talk about the wedge faces tool.
Okay.
I'm not going to use it a lot, but I'm sure you can find at least one place where you can use it.
At least one or two.
Yeah.
But just because I'm trying to come up with a really cool way to demonstrate on this model, I'm going to go ahead and delete this guy out, and we'll just get our good old trusty cube back out here. The wedge faces tool, we're really only going to be using in one small part of this, but several people might not have seen how this tool works, so it'd be a good idea to go ahead and demonstrate it.
Yeah, it's a very cool tool.
Let me go ahead and I'll create a cube, and then we're going to select faces on it. Now, the wedge faces tool is interesting in that it requires two different types of components selected in order to function. Basically, what we're going to be doing is taking this face and hinging it to an edge and extruding it up in a hinge format. Let me go ahead and demonstrate and make it make a little more sense. With this face selected, I'm going to right-click and also select an edge. We'll just go ahead and select this edge out here. And now under Edit Polygons, I'm going to go to Wedge Faces. And you see what happened. It actually did something very much like an extrusion, but this edge that we selected was actually anchored down, and no new faces were created in between that edge. So we can come here under our history, and we have the wedge angle, which is 90 degrees. You can see the wedge actually went up to a full 90. So we can again use our virtual slider and edit that and get kind of an accordion look. And we can take the divisions and turn them up as well until this is much more rounded. Now, just kind of off topic, this really doesn't have a whole lot to do with our model. This is really handy for those of you out there who are ever modeling something like you need something mechanical, maybe a pipe, for instance. Let me go ahead and get a cylinder, and I'll just demonstrate this really quick. If you were to model maybe curvature in a pipe or something like that, you can select all of the faces of your cap, for instance, and then right-click, also select a single edge, and then run wedge faces again. Sorry about that. And you get a nice bend in your cylinder. So just, kind of a cool trick to keep in mind.
Very cool. Okay, so final thing, let's go ahead and show them the mirror geometry abilities.
Mirror geometry.
Because, after all, that's another thing that's going to play a very important role throughout this VTM.
Absolutely. So actually, I'm going to back up a little bit and get my ugly
the
model
super cool thing.
Super advanced. Well,
yeah, super advanced.
Or something. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to rotate this this guy. We'll say -90. And what I want to do is mirror this guy over so that there's another one of these attached over here.
So envision that being a character, being just half your character. Because, of course, it would be a lot quicker to model
that
half
looks more
a
like
character.
the kind of thing I'd be shooting in a game. Like...
Hey. Character.
Character. This is a character.
That's right. Visualize this is your character.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying hard. Okay, so basically here's the entire idea behind the mirror geometry tool. We have our geometry. It has a seam. We've been modeling, let's just say for this particular example, we're only modeling half the geometry. And this is a really popular way to model. If you're building something that's going to be symmetrical, like a human being, which typically has a left hand and a right hand and so on, you're not going to want to model both things at the same time, for several reasons. One, it'd be very hard to get perfect accuracy in between the two shapes, but also be very time-consuming. It literally doubles your work. So you would model one half of your character, then use mirror geometry to generate the second half. And enough blabber. Let's go ahead and try it. So we'll go under mirror geometry. I'm going to go to the options first. We have the mirror direction, which basically it's positive and negative in all three axes. And if we want to, we can look at our little axis Q down here, and really it shows that we probably need to be mirroring in the positive Z-axis. Do we want to merge with the original? Yes, we do. But rather than merging vertices, we want to connect border edges. And this will turn this whole thing into one seamless model. And we'll go ahead and hit mirror, and there you go.
Very nice.
So there's mirror geometry. So I know it's a stretch of the imagination to imagine this is a character with arms and legs and stuff.
You picture that's a character?
I know.
I'm just messing with you. Okay, well, the whole idea of this lesson here was, again, just to introduce you to the tools that we're going to be using throughout this VTM in constructing our character. Very simple look at everything, and with that, Zach, I believe we're ready to get things set up, rocking and rolling.
I think so.
All right, thanks, everyone.